Hi, friends. I'm Molly, and today we are going to be talking about my weight loss journey. So, last year, I actually made a video about how I had gained over 40 pounds, and now I'm sitting here telling you that I've lost 35 of those pounds. I'm very excited. I even wrote down some notes because there's just so much to talk about. And this time last year, I really didn't know if I would be able to lose it because it was the highest weight that I had ever been, and I think during that time, I thought I was eating healthy and I was like moving quite a bit too. So then I was like, why isn't the weight falling off? Like, is there something wrong with my body? And even when I first started going to the gym, I felt like the scales at the gyms weren't really moving or budging that much. But one of the things that I learned throughout my journey is that discipline is honestly so important, and it's probably the best thing that you could do for yourself in terms of fitness, wellness, and just in your life overall. With that being said, we're going to dive straight into it. So, one of the things that I did was really let go of my old identity, my old beliefs around what was possible for me, and like everything that I had been, if you keep doing the same things over and over again, you're going to keep getting the same results. If I want to be getting different results, if I want to change, then that means that what goes on up here has to change. What I'm doing has to change in order for me to get different results, right? So that meant changing my beliefs around what was possible for me. So before I had, said to myself, like, oh, it's so hard to lose weight. It's so hard to do this. It's so hard to do that. And I kind of just took it's so hard out of my vocabulary. And I just started believing, okay, this is possible. Let me do this. Let me keep showing up. So, like I said earlier, one of the most important things that I did was I kept showing up even when I didn't see the results yet because I trusted the journey and I trusted that if I kept showing up for myself, then that something would change. And it really wasn't until I came back and I used my scale that had all the information where I was like, oh my gosh, it really worked. Like everything that I had been doing for the past 6 months, for the past like 8 months, it really paid off. But you have to learn to be patient because I remember in the beginning, I was like, okay, I'm going to eat like in a really big calorie deficit. I'm going to do all the things. And what I realized now looking back is that restricting your restriction does not work. It often leads to you eating more. It often leads to um, just like you not really feeling that good about yourself. And so I think somewhere along the journey, after like a month or a few weeks of eating in a really big calorie deficit, I was like, this is not sustainable. This is not how I want to live my life. And so, even though this is not a video about how I lost the weight quickly, this is how I've been able to lose the weight, but still really enjoy my life, still really enjoy the foods that um, I'm eating, and also be able to do things with friends. If a friend wants to go get boba or if they want to go get brunch, I don't say no. I just adjust how much I eat or what I eat, and I still have a really good time. And that was one of the things that was really important for me. I did not want to restrict myself because it's just not sustainable long term. It's not how I want to live my life. And I am also really careful about the vocabulary that I use with myself and even when I'm talking to others. So, for example, I don't use the word cheat meal or cheat day. It's just me enjoying my life. It's me enjoying my dinner or my lunch or whatever it is. And again, I just watch how much I eat. Before in the past, I would probably eat until I was really, really full. And now I eat till I'm content. And yes, sometimes it's not perfect, right? And that's the other thing. You have to stop expecting yourself to be perfect because I know that for me, when I wanted to lose the weight, I wanted everything to be perfect. But then you're putting so much pressure on yourself that if you don't do like everything right, you just feel like you failed yourself in a way and you haven't failed yourself at all. So instead of trying to be perfect, I just started focusing on being better. What can I do better today? What can I do better this week? And going back to changing who you are, one thing that really helped me was thinking of myself like the person that I wanted to become. So instead of seeing it as this far away journey, I started asking myself, what is the ideal version of me? Like, what would she be eating, or what would she be doing, or what would she be saying to herself? Like, how does she talk to herself? What does she believe about herself and her life and what she's capable of? And so I started thinking, my ideal self, she loves going on walks every day. She loves going to the gym. She loves taking care of her body. She doesn't expect herself to be perfect. She speaks to herself with kindness and compassion. She has hobbies. And so I just started incorporating more and more of those things into my life. I started finding hobbies I enjoyed. I started finding foods that I liked. And again, it wasn't always perfect, but as long as you're making yourself better like every day, every week, or even every month, it's just going to get better and better. And so that's why it's taken me like, I don't know, 8 months, 9 months to lose the 30 to 35 pounds because I do fluctuate within that 5 pound range. I'm currently fluctuating a lot between 170, like 176 to 178. And so I don't worry about if I gained a pound or two because things do fluctuate. Like there's so many things that could be fluctuating. For example, water weight. If you ate like more sugar or sodium the past few days, your hormones, your cycle, like there's so many different things that cause the fluctuation. And instead of freaking you out about it, think about how you feel. I know that for me, when I was going to the gym pretty consistently, I felt really good in my body every day. I felt more confident about myself. And every time I left the gym, I knew that I put in a good workout. And so focusing on how you feel rather than the number on the scale. Because I know that even sometimes now when I step on the scale, I'll catch myself so that I don't spiral downwards. But I know that a lot of people do tend to spiral downwards. And so focusing on how you feel, but also one thing that has really helped me was having progress photos. And I'm not the best, I don't know why, but I'm not the best at keeping progress photos or taking progress photos, but I do have a few. And whenever I start to feel like, oh, is it even working? I look at those photos again to remind myself, yes, even when you don't see the changes day by day, because here's the thing, you look at yourself every single day. And so it's hard to see the changes, but if you take pictures every month, you'll see your body changing, and that will be reassurance for you that yes, it is working. And speaking of which, one thing that I learned was you cannot rely on motivation. I think that motivation is really good for starting because that's what helped me kickstart my journey, getting motivation and inspiration from others, but that was not what kept me going. What kept me going was discipline. What kept me going was visualizing my future self. What kept me going was like focusing on how I felt. And I noticed over time that once I started eating better, once I started walking more, once I started going to the gym regularly, it also helped me improve my sleep. And by doing all those things, I remember this time last year, I was like here recording videos and I had brain fog, I had memory fog. I constantly had like headaches and migraines. And I remember this time last year, I was looking in the mirror and I did not like what was reflected back at me. But now every time I look in the mirror, I feel so proud because I know all the work that I've put into myself, not just with the weight loss, but also with changing my mindset and changing who I am internally and working on myself and going to therapy and changing like the way that I think and feel about myself and learning to be more compassionate and kind with myself. And so when I look at myself in the mirror now, I see someone different because all of that was an intentional choice. You are always creating something in your life. You're always choosing something in your life. And this is what I tell myself every single day for the past 6 months. You're always choosing something, and that is what is going to happen in your life. So, for example, when you wake up, you can choose to get out of bed, or you can choose to continue laying in bed for 30 minutes, for an hour, and scroll on your phone and be consumed by or consume content, and your thoughts are no longer your thoughts. Everything in our lives is a choice. And once I started thinking about it like that, and what my future self would be choosing, that's when things really started clicking into place. My future self would do this. So let's go ahead and do that. And the more that you do that, the more that you rewire your brain, because if you've been a certain way for the past 5 years, or even for the past year, you're used to certain things in your life, right? You're used to doing things a certain way. You're used to having certain thoughts, and you have to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, are my beliefs, my actions, and my thoughts on a daily basis supporting the person that I want to be? And if they're not, you have to be honest with yourself and be disciplined enough to change those things, because that's how change works. Like, you're not going to change by continuing to do the same things that you were doing. You can even do something in the middle. So, for example, when I first started going to the gym and I was doing the Stairmaster, there were some mornings where it was a bit more tiring. So, I would watch Netflix because it was something enjoyable with something maybe not so enjoyable, right? And so, it's not like you have to just all of a sudden change everything about your life. But if you make those small changes, it's like a pathway to making choices that are probably better for you, that are probably more aligned with who you want to be and where you want to be. Another thing that really helped me was doing 75 soft slash medium. So it really got me into the discipline of going to the gym every day. It takes time to build a new habit, especially if you're not used to doing it, especially if it doesn't excite you. But when you build the discipline to do something, it just changes your brain chemistry. I'm not sure what exactly changes, but I know for me, it just changed so much for me. And the reason why I decided not to do 75 hard is because I don't like the idea of starting over every time you mess something up. Because sometimes when you feel like you're constantly starting over, you start to lose confidence in yourself, right? And you start to wonder if you're ever going to get there. So here's my other piece of advice: do what works for you. Um, there's a lot of information online, but one thing that has helped me is taking what resonates and leaving the rest. There are so many people out there who have lost tons of weight just by walking. You don't need like all of the intense exercise. I also do recommend strength training just so that you're building muscle as well. But there are people who like doing classes. There's people who like working out alone. You can work out at the gym, or you can work out home. There's so many things. So my point is, like, don't make excuses for yourself, but try finding things that work for you and do them. And don't worry about honestly, don't worry about getting it perfect in the beginning. Work on getting into the action of doing something. So, for example, say that you want to work out at the gym, get into the habit of going to the gym. And then once you start going to the gym, you will eventually get better at your gym workouts. And that's what happened for me. When I first started going to the gym, I mostly did the rowing machine and the treadmill. And once I started feeling comfortable in the gym after, I would say, like 1 or 2 months, I started incorporating strength training workouts. It doesn't have to happen all at once. And I know if you're watching this video, you probably want the weight to fall off quickly. You probably want to lose like a lot of weight in a short amount of time. And personally, for me, now looking back, I should have just been more patient from the beginning, because if I hadn't like tried to eat in a such a big calorie deficit, which I probably wasn't doing anyway. I was probably eating a calorie in a big calorie deficit from like certain days, and then other days I would eat more because I just felt so hungry, or the cravings were so strong. Whereas if I just ate, at a slight caloric deficit, I would have lost probably more weight in the beginning. And so take your time is what I'm saying. Take your time and make sure it's sustainable, because otherwise you're going to lose a lot of weight in a short amount of time, and then what, it's not sustainable, and then you gain all the weight back, or probably even more, and you do not want that. So Really listen to your body, take your time, be patient, and don't just work on losing the weight, but work on building this discipline, building the lifestyle, building the identity of who it is that you want to be so that it does become your life, it does become who you are. And also sleep. I feel like sleep, ever since I started prioritizing my sleep, I feel like that has really helped as well because it helps me do the workouts more intentionally and I'm not as stressed because when we're stressed, it's harder for us to lose weight. So if you're stressed, find things to help you de stress, whether that's meditating, going for a walk, so your body isn't constantly in stress. And another thing that I do that I didn't mention in this video is I do intermediate fasting. So I eat within a certain window. I normally have my first meal around 12 and then I'll have my last meal around 6 or 6:30. And if I'm hanging out with other people, then I'll like extend it a bit. But for the most part, that's what I do. And again, I don't go like super heavy on anything. Like for example, for the eating window, mine is pretty flexible, even though I know that's probably better to be if you say that's within a certain time frame, then that's what it is. But for me personally, I just find that it's just easier for me if I'm a little bit flexible with myself and I'm not like all or nothing because I do tend to have an all or nothing mindset when it comes to everything in life. But that's proven to not be good for me. So I'm trying to learn to be more flexible in my life and in my journey. So I know this was really long and I kind of jumped around a bit, but I really hope that this was helpful and it gives you some motivation, especially in terms of I know that there's a lot of, how I lost a big number of weight in 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And it's not as impressive to say that you lost a certain amount of weight in like a longer time frame, but honestly, making this a lifestyle change and making this a identity change is one of the most transformative things because I know that I'm never going to go back to where I was when I made that video because I've learned so much about myself along the way, very much understand like why I got there in the first place, and I now have so many things in my toolbox that have helped me sustain this weight loss and also the love that I have for myself because I really do believe that caring for yourself and caring for your body and learning discipline even is a form of self-care and a form of self-love. And so yeah, I hope that this video was helpful. If it was, please leave a comment in the comments below and also say hi. And it would mean so much if you took a moment to like this video. And if you want to learn more about how to lose weight or how to change your identity or how to live your dream life because it's possible for everyone, then make sure to follow and subscribe to this channel. And with that being said, I will see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.